Going to be asking that age-old question that seems to change every decade or two as fashion and trends change. What is the most versatile Rolex? Now, versatility, it seems to be everything today, and it's what the modern world requires of us in a lot of respects. And when it comes to watches, some of the best are also the most versatile. So this is quite an open-ended question, and the great part about it is we definitely have our own preferences and opinions about what the most versatile watch is. So I'm using Rolex as the example for a lot of obvious reasons, chiefly because it's a universal brand and a lot of us know quite a bit about the history and the catalog, so we can piece together our answers a little bit better. So our choices are quite easy to digest and understand. But this is the point I leave to you, maybe even before watching the video. What, in your opinion, does watch versatility mean? And what would your choice be for the most versatile Rolex? This should be interesting. The reasons why we enjoy Rolex, well, there are plenty of them. Simple designs, they're iconic, extremely well made, excellent timekeepers. It is fair what people say that they are masters in many areas, marketing included. And to the naysayers, Omega enthusiast here, they do make brilliant watches. Along with all of these characteristics though, the one thing that they have above many other brands is that word versatility. And that's something that we maybe don't credit them enough for, or it's so well known and understood, ingrained in the zeitgeist, that it's never brought up in conversation. When we look at the entire Rolex catalog, they produce a vast amount of watches, many of which with characteristics that make for ideal daily wearers. In fact, it could be the only watch you would ever need to own because of how well-rounded it is. And there is something quite comforting in that, with such a huge menu to choose from and such a variety of choice, that diversity, but also knowing that no matter your choice, it'll age well and it could be the only watch you wear for the rest of your life. Part and parcel why these pieces are so favored by enthusiasts, but also the everyday Joe, is because they are in a group of watches that don't require a lot of thought about whether they will be appropriate to wear in any given situation. So we've established that Rolex is a brand that produces some of the most versatile watches. And for those of you wondering, versatility just means it's something that is able to adapt. It is ideal in many environments. It's capable of doing more than one thing given the situation. So here is that issue that you can probably already see. There is such a wide range of pieces that fall into this category. So how do we work out which is the most versatile? Because we all have different requirements day to day. One person's life may be spent in a city while another might live out at sea. Another might be a sports person. We could just end the video here by saying a Date Submariner or a Sea-Dweller. It has a seriously robust build. It's iconic when it comes to Rolex. But it also has cool features that makes it more of an advanced dive watch if that's your thing. But as far as a daily wearer goes, it meets a lot of the criteria and requirements that we look for. But when we think more about it, that's too easy of an answer, at least for those of us who spend way too much time thinking about these sorts of things. So then, how best can we define what makes for a versatile Rolex? I think along with versatility today, there is something else that has influenced how we look at our pieces, and that is subtlety, that the word subtlety should be included in that equation. Rolex watches, at least for a lot of us enthusiasts, we don't necessarily want the watch to be on display for all eyes to see. I think a lot of us, in fact, do want to wear them with a level of discretion. But then it's asking that fundamental question of what does the modern watch wearer want? A date complication, a rotating bezel, a GMT complication? So where does that practicality intersect with the discretion and the versatility for the modern watch wearer? That's the question. Let's start with the simple stuff. The size of the watch is irrelevant. Where I might say that 36mm is a great all-round size, others might prefer 39 or 42 or 44. The size of the watch is something we all interpret differently with our watches, and depending on the type of watch and its application, the size of it is also relative. I think that's extremely important that people don't talk about enough. With all that negative space, it's not always that important, and it might be better and feel a lot more considered if it was smaller in size. But bracelets, on the other hand, where does versatility, durability, practicality, and subtlety factor in? Rolex is well known for their bracelet designs, and here we can make some headway. The Jubilee bracelet, it's stunning. It's Rolex's swan song. It's one of the most beautiful, simple, sophisticated patterns that the brand has ever put together. But would it be used in a professional sense with a professional watch? The presidential bracelet, is that something more or less elaborate compared to the Jubilee? But the Oyster, as cliche as it might be, It has discretion, but it is also excellent for any situation, dressed up or dressed down. Being comfortable and durable, all the while it gives the watch a lot more substance on the wrist. So we can agree that in this scenario, maybe the Oyster is the most versatile choice. Unless you're after the Oyster Flex, which is a very subtle choice, but will probably need replacement after every few years if you wear it hard. Other small details like bezel choices. For the sake of a versatile option, would you go for fluted or domed? I feel that the standard domed bezel would be better day after day. From those few footnotes, try and say that 4 times, it's now down to model choice, and there are a lot of options to go after, starting with, the Oyster Perpetual and the Datejust. There is something really special about these pieces, especially seeing how they have evolved over the generations. How they've changed in size, but also how their designs have been adjusted, incorporating new colorways, bracelet options, and finishes. Stepping back and realizing that these are the originals, that these watches really established the Oyster Perpetual name and how it is represented today. There's something great about it. The majority of these pieces have that simplicity and the ergonomics and the ease of use for a daily wearer. The Oyster Perpetuals with their colorways offer fun and vibrancy. But starting down that professional line, this is where the majority of the interest lies. For a multitude of reasons, and I think chiefly because many of them present a far more stoic appearance, and maybe that's the wrong word to choose, but you know what I mean. Simple, sterile, less cluttered, a lot less ornate, built primarily for function and use. We look to the Explorer and the Explorer 2. These pieces virtually tick every single box for the modern watch wearer. When it comes to versatility, durability, discretion, while still representing the Rolex name. One is far simpler than the other, but has a lot of that traditional DNA instilled, while that Explorer 2 with the GMT and date offers a lot more complication in the package. Then there is a model like the Milgauss, which offers a lot of visual complexity with its design, while still holding that original Perpetual DNA. There is a lot to this piece that makes it a far more fun and enjoyable wearing experience day to day, where I don't believe you would ever get bored wearing it because it has so much dynamism. What about the Air-King? A piece that's in this professional collection that is largely ignored because it's a bit different. Very different. It maybe doesn't have that through-line design inspiration that many others have had all the way from the beginning, but it is unique. And its design definitely even goes against Rolex's status quo. All the while, these types of pieces, which do skirt under the radar in a lot of ways, can be worn and enjoyed without garnering a lot of attention. And I think this is something that the enthusiast does pursue when it comes to Rolex as well as versatility. But then to a piece like the Submariner, it's an icon. It's as iconic as the Datejust with the Jubilee bracelet and a fluted bezel and Cyclops window. All of these elements are part and parcel with how modern Rolex represents itself, but at the same time, instantly recognizable. When it comes to day-to-day versatility, the Submariner is a hard watch to beat, especially with what it offers. And in there alone, you're getting a simple design that works on all occasions. I would say more than the GMT. The Sea-Dweller, on the other hand, is another well-kept secret because it offers a lot of toys that the Submariner might not have, especially when we look across to the 43 and the 44mm variants. Larger in size, yes, some with, some without a Cyclops lens. But similar to the Submariner, also some great spots of color included. And moving across to the Yacht-Master, another piece that has been swept under the rug in favor of the more beefed up professional pieces. In contrast, these have a sense of elegance with polished aspects and precious metals on the bezels. The colors chosen are also interesting, and it's a watch that continues to feel like an experiment by Rolex. It's a platform that they use to test new materials and to see what works. Definitely when we look across to models like the RLX titanium version. The GMT, which has been touted as Rolex's greatest, also has a lot when it comes to versatility. For those who maybe do spend a lot of time traveling between time zones or needs to keep track of time in other places because of business and other things. In the modern climate, it seems to be a piece that's in even more demand compared to the iconic Submariner, chiefly because it has more features and an interesting choice of colors for its bezels. But I would also say the added complication and that more dynamic bezel makes it less of a sterile variant of the Submariner, if that's what you're pursuing. And beyond that, when we look to the Sky-Dweller, this is where they fuse elements of the GMT with the Datejust. You get the best of both worlds in a lot of ways. With that added practicality, but maybe not the same level of subtlety as other pieces. It's a watch that does offer a lot when we think of dynamism as well as a statement piece on the wrist. But then one of the last pieces to discuss in this category is the President, or the Day-Date, with a complication and a style that screams 1980s but does seem to be making a return. The choice of a watch consisting entirely of precious metals doesn't make for the most versatile watch, but then again there are testimonials of people who have worn these for decades and have never had a problem. There is one piece I'm omitting here, which is the Daytona. Versatility-wise, does it fall into that category? Maybe, if you can afford one. Is it a watch now that is worn and enjoyed regularly for its day-to-day use, or is it put away in a safe? That's up to you. Now, the Daytona, being Rolex's only chronograph in this kind of category, also does manage to have a level of discretion depending on the model you choose. But as far as that practicality goes, when it comes down to timing something, a rotating bezel seems a lot more favored for most of us. From that broad selection of pieces that I've touched on, you can see how versatile this collection is, and how difficult it is to pinpoint on what makes for the ideal choice, especially in the modern sense today. So with all the cards on the table, given these choices for a hard-wearing, day-to-day use Rolex that can be appropriate in any environment for the modern wearer, after some measured thought on the subject, my opinion, I think it's the Explorer 2. Because on the outside it leaves a great impression for what makes for an excellent daily wearing watch. It doesn't necessarily scream Rolex or draw attention to itself, but at the same time offers a lot in terms of complexity when we look at the movement, we look at the GMT complication and the date. Day-to-day wearing, if you work in a company, if you're commuting in a city, it's good to know the date. But having that added GMT complication for the modern wearer in the information age where connectivity is so important and very often we operate internationally, having that leg up with a GMT complication is nice. But having that durability and versatility without drawing attention to itself is even better. That's where I think at least the Explorer 2 ticks all the boxes when it comes to meeting that point of versatility. But then again, versatility can also be incredibly boring, and it's not for everyone. So of course your choice could be entirely different, and that's what I'd like to know from you. I feel like this subject could be expanded so much more, and that the seed has only been planted here. But what can you do? What does watch versatility mean to you? And in the context of this video, what is the most versatile Rolex in your opinion? And for those of you wondering, that box behind me, it's not an Explorer 2, but that is a story for another time. Love to know your thoughts on the subject. Thank you very much for taking the time to watch this video. See you in the next one.